Okay, so I actually decided to take the MCAT the summer after I graduated. I began my full-time job at Kaiser soon after graduation. So I was actually studying for the MCAT while working a full-time job. I know that might seem a little bit like crazy, but it's actually super doable. I bought secondhand MCAT prep books off my school's free and for sale page at a major discount because I am a very frugal Asian, as you probably all know, and also shared an online prep service with a couple of my friends to save on cost. I used Kaplan and the AAMC official online MCAT Prep. So there's also a prep site called UWorld that offers a huge collection of sample MCAT test questions, and they allow you to have a free trial of like 100 questions before deciding whether or not you actually want to buy in on the whole service. It costs around $200. So I personally just opted to use the free sample questions, 100, because again, I am very frugal and I'm proud of it. And I definitely found them to be harder than the official AAMC sample questions. So they're very good for over preparation. And you always want to do that because, you know, test day, you're going to have jitters that you wouldn't have accounted for otherwise. So you want to be very, very prepared. And a couple important things to keep in mind for MCAT. I recommend taking as many full-length tests you have access to before the MCAT as possible. So I know that Kaplan has 3, Princeton Review has 3, and AAMC has 3 or 4. And so, yeah, I took all of those. And I didn't, yeah, those are all of the ones that I used. And I would suggest taking the Kaplan and Princeton Review ones first, and then taking the AAMC ones closest to your actual MCAT. Because the Kaplan and Princeton Review, they're known to be harder than the actual MCAT. So the scores that you get on them will likely be a couple points lower than the scores that you get on the official AAMC tests. And then the scores that you receive on the AAMC tests are known to be closest to your actual score. And yeah, I found that to be true in my own experience. And then number 2, I'd start 2 months before your MCAT exam date, or at least 2 months before your MCAT exam date to study, and try to set aside 7 hours every weekend or whatever day you're free to take a full-length MCAT exam. Just by the resources I mentioned earlier, there are a minimum of 9 to 10 sample tests that you can take. And there's also a diagnostic test that you should probably take near the beginning of your prep just to see where you might need to brush up on the most. So since I was working a full-time job while studying and had a relatively long commute to work, so it was like 1 hour each way, I used my commute time to listen to MCAT review podcasts. I just downloaded some MCAT podcasts from the app on my iPhone and listened to them over and over again. And I'm not even gonna lie, I actually listened to some of these at least like 4 to 5 times, which is honestly a lot. And can get really boring, but you know, it's kind of what you need to do. I'd also pause the podcast sometimes, just to test myself on the information I just heard, because it's sometimes just really easy to passively listen and not really absorb the information. So that's really important. And each podcast would be around like 30 to 45 minutes. And basically finish reviewing all content before you start taking the sample tests, or else you might be just wasting sample full-length tests because you haven't actually reviewed all the content necessary to complete the test in a fashion that mirrors the actual test date, which is what you'll need the most. You just want to simulate that test environment over and over again so that you are very used to it by the actual exam date. So I won't spend too much more time on the MCAT. If you have more questions, feel free to email me or ask me at the end of this talk.